All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar where we'll be discussing how to expand your brand with social media marketing. My name is Katrina Johnson and I am the marketing manager here at Reputation Sensei. So just a little background on us before we get started. We are a full service digital marketing agency located in North Atlanta, and we specialize in helping our clients expand their online footprint. We do so by utilizing a reputation, social media, and local SEO strategy. We also handle lead gen and paid search and website development. Now to introduce our hosts, we have Chris Snellgrove, our CEO and founder here, and all the way from Dallas, Texas, Lisa Duty.
Hey!
Good morning. Thanks for that introduction, Katrina. We're super excited to be here today. We are actually going live on Facebook as we speak. So let's just see if this goes through. How you doing this morning, Lisa?
I am doing wonderful, and I'm so excited about being here today. After all, we are talking about one of my very favorite topics, social media.
You've actually written a book on it.
Actually, two, Chris.
That's right.
One on Twitter, one on LinkedIn.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, we are, when we're talking to clients today, we always agree that the most cost-effective way to expand your brand today is social media, and there's really never been a opportunity like exists today with social media because you can interact with your customers for the first time ever, right?
Yeah, and Facebook's making it easier and easier to interact with them. I mean, they're adding tools and features and making it easier. Sometimes a little harder, but sometimes easier.
So Lisa, we have a special guest about to phone in, right?
Oh, we do?
Yeah, a surprise guest, special guest appearance. You'll never guess who. We're waiting on the line right now. He's supposed to make the phone call. So
I think I hear it.
He's going to give us some live insights into what's going on Facebook.
I'm happy to hear it. Is he on yet?
Not yet.
Okay, well, I just got a special message, Chris. Guess what they said?
April Fools.
Oh, man, I was so looking forward to getting those added insights, weren't you?
We had to do it. I mean, we couldn't pass this opportunity up on April Fool's Day.
Can anybody pass that up? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, we have a lot of information to cover, so we'll jump right in. This is part of a webinar series. We've already gone through the 5-star reputation marketing strategy, how to optimize your Google My Business listing. The last one was get found with local SEO. And today we're going to be discussing expanding your brand with social media marketing.
Woohoo!
And then the next one is how to drive revenue using your website, which will be one of your favorites as well, Lisa.
I guess I have a lot of favorites. What's wrong with me, Chris?
Now, if you want replays to any of our previous webinars, just let us know in the chat and we'll drop you a link.
Be glad to do it. And they're really some powerful information that we have covered throughout the webinar. There's something else we're giving away too today, Chris. Do you remember what it is?
Yep. An online business presence evaluator. So you can evaluate how your business appears online in terms of your website, social media, reputation, local SEO. It's a simple two-page form that will take you step by step and help you evaluate exactly where you're at now. We'll give this at the end.
And the fact is if they've actually attended or get the download to the other webinars, then they'll be able to really use that information that we're sharing.
Also, as we go through, there's a lot of information we'll be covering. Please go ahead, as you think of questions, drop them into the chat. We will answer them at the very end, but go ahead and put them in the chat, please.
Yes, absolutely. So let's cover our agenda that we're going to talk about today. And all of these things are related to social media specifically. We're going to cover laying your foundation, setting up your networks. Now, we're not going to go to a one by one, but we are going to talk about some things that relate to that. We're going to talk about how to get started if you haven't already got started on social media. We're going to share some content ideas. That's always fun, isn't it, Chris? I love talking about content ideas.
Content's my favorite.
It's one of the challenges that people have. And so I'm excited to share the tips we're going to cover today in that. Of course, you got to have some tools when you're doing social media. Otherwise, it can get complicated. We're going to share about one of the favorite things that people love to hear me talk about, and that is evergreen content. And I'll explain more what that is a little bit later. And then how you have a lot of stuff that you've already created that you can repurpose. I know you have a lot of stuff there, Chris, that we could use for tips on social media, huh?
That's right.
Then we're going to talk about maintenance, because without having a post on social media, without doing your maintenance, then it doesn't work for you. And then we're going to just do a quick little wrap up. And of course, we'll have time for questions and answers. So we're looking forward to it. Do you want to add anything before I move on, Chris, and get started?
Basically, we're going to provide you with a blueprint on how to do it yourself. And, you know, it only requires a couple of things. And really, it's having the knowledge to execute, and then having a pre-plan. And we'll talk about some of the things that can help make you successful on a week-by-week basis.
Wonderful. I'm going to ask you a stupid question here real quick, Quiz. Can you see my chat box? It has the questions on it. I'm just wondering if that shares into the webinar for everybody or not.
I think we can see it, but I don't think everybody else. Maybe
okay, cool. I was just curious.
Yeah, I think we're seeing full screen.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to start with laying your foundation. So there's several things that come with that. It's setting up your social media channels. You got to know your W's and your H's. You've got to talk about content creation tools, and then you got to really depend on your community in order to make it all work together.
And what's the W and H's?
We're going to cover those right now. You're going to have to wait and see. So first, we're going to go into setting up your networks. This is an example of Facebook. What I want y'all to notice here is some consistency. So this is what it looks like on Facebook for Rocks Digital. Well, it was when I took these screenshots. Here's what Twitter looked like. And then here is our LinkedIn. Now, I want you to notice here that our logo is the same. Our brand's consistent. The messaging is consistent. People know no matter what social network they're on, they're going to be able to know who Rocks Digital is. They're going to know they're actually looking at Rocks Digital's brand, and that it's all consistent. That's one of the main things I want you to have here. It's not about having different logos on different networks. You want it all the same and consistent across the board. And why I don't have a slide for Google My Business, this section includes your Google My Business listing, Chris.
Consistency is key here.
It really is, because otherwise they're questioning, is this the right business? Is this who I want to talk to? Am I connected to the right place? Consistency important. And along with that, nowadays you can customize your URLs for the different platforms. So making sure you have those URLs set up consistently so people can find you on all the different platforms. That's a great thing to do also.
And one more point, it's a good idea when you're talking to your graphic artists about your designs to make sure that they go ahead and give you the pre-framed design work in the dimensions that each of these sites require, because they're all different. LinkedIn's different than Facebook, and Facebook's different than Twitter. So
that's a great added tip, Chris, because you're absolutely right about that. You got to give those dimensions to your graphic artist for sure. Otherwise, the images look all weird depending on what platform you're on. You can't just get one image and use it across all, for sure. So the next thing we're going to do is here's some W's. So we're going to talk about the why and the what. So when you're using social media, and I want you to think here, guys, I'm actually walking you through creating a social media plan. I realize you're not necessarily going to have time to write all your notes down right now, but this is something that you want to consider. You need to define your objective. Why are you using social media? And I'm not talking about here, you got to get specific. You want to get sales, you want to increase it for a specific product or all your products. What is it? Are you wanting site traffic? Do you want more downloads? Do you want people to request a free consultation? What is your objective for using social media? You have to understand that. You've got to know why it's important to your customer. What message are you wanting to get across to them? How are you different from the other people that offer the same product or service? What are the results that you're hoping to achieve? Obviously, you want more sales, right? But you've got to really drill in and think through this and get specific. Do you want more likes? You want more engagement? You really have to think about these things, because this impacts when you're creating your social media content, the kind of content that you're creating. If you're just posting to be posting on social media, then you're not going to get any results at all. Don't you agree with that, Chris?
That's right.
You just can't post because you're doing something obligatory. I actually have a friend of mine who years and years ago, I called her one day and she's like, oh, I got to go post right now on Facebook. It's 4:59 p.m. and I haven't posted anything today. And you know what I told her? Don't even bother. If you're doing social media out of obligation, and that's the only reason you're doing it, it's not going to work for you. You can't just rush through something and see results. I just want you to know that from the get-go. It takes time and dedication. Now, you've got to know, go ahead, I'm sorry.
One last thing on that, messaging is so important there, because so many times we see companies posting for their reasons, their motives, and not for the audience's needs and desires. And when you do that, you come across as very salesy. I'll give you an example. used car dealers are really bad about just posting inventory on their Facebook page. Well, if I just bought a car from you and then I go to your fan page and all you're doing is like throwing inventory up on me, it's not going to be very effective. I'm not going to continue to like the page. I'm not going to follow it. So it's very important to have a pretty defined strategy when you're designing your social media.
Yeah, you absolutely definitely need to do that. You have to know who your target audience is. Well, yeah, you want to sell to people in general, but and maybe all people can buy your products, but you have to get really specific about your target audiences. For example, an allergist, his target audience is an allergy sufferer, obviously. So you have to really drill into that, thinking about Chris's car buyer example, right? It's somebody that is looking to buy a new car. Why everybody's eligible to buy a new car, but you have to think about, no, I want new car buyers, right? And then you have to know what social media sites your target audience is frequenting the most. Okay, you have to really think about that because, they might not be on Pinterest unless it's moms, and who even mentions Pinterest as much anymore? Now they're all hanging out on Instagram. So you really have to understand that. And you have to think about what platforms they're using right now. Okay. And where they're at. And then you also want to think about where's the best platform to market your products and services. And I know that's weird. You're like, well, it's where my target audience is, right? That's not always the case though. If your image is really visual and you have a lot of graphics and stuff, Twitter might not be the best place to market your products and services. Instagram might be the best place to market that. So you have to know the best platform to market on and then find your niche audience there. And if they're not there, figure out how you can convert those people that are connected to you on another channel to a place that is the best platform to market your products and services.
And oftentimes clients ask us, how do I find out where my customers are at online? What social media sites are they following? And we recommend doing a survey. It's easy. You can do Survey Monkey. You can survey your clients and find out exactly where they're at. And that's going to give you great insight on where you should be.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. And you got to do that because otherwise you're just a guessing game, right? You have to think about where the close is going to take place. Are you using Facebook shopping and they can actually buy right there? I'm thinking about Chris, you have some Legion ads running right now where people can literally put their name and information right there on Facebook. So the close is happening right there.
Yeah. And in fact, with the new form fills that Facebook's designed, all they have to do is hit learn more. When they go to the form fill, it's already populated with their contact information, which makes it very, very easy to convert.
That is so cool. And you're right. They're absolutely doing that. And the reason I mentioned this close part is because if you're taking them to your website to fill out a form or whatever, you have to take your website into consideration because needs to be you don't want to just take them to the homepage. You want to take them to a landing page or that specific product page. Is there a form on there? Is there prices? Is there buy buttons? You have to look at the whole experience whenever you're considering selling a product or service on social media. You have to keep all of that in mind.
Also, Facebook does not like when you put links on their fan pages that take people off of Facebook.
They do not. They definitely do not. And something I actually don't have in here that I think is important to consider is they don't like, if you have a lot of CTAs, like if you say like or share in your actual Facebook post, then they're going to decrease your reach for visibility for that. So you want to avoid any of those CTA words like or share. You can allude to that without that. And they don't really like you to say comment either. So you could say things like, let me know what you think. What's your best strategy? Or those kind of words that say, hey, comment without commenting, or this is important information for all the local businesses, because that gives them the idea, oh, I should share this. But you're not actually saying share or like or any of those taboo words that Facebook doesn't like. And then you also have got to know when your target audience is online. Now, everybody always asks me here, they're like, oh, well, give me a stat. What does all the reports say? Well, I think about Facebook a long, long time ago. They came out with a report and said, oh, well, the best time to post on Facebook is at 11 p.m. at night. Well, you know why that is? Nobody's on Facebook at 11 p.m. at night. And so, yeah, the people that are posting are going to get more visibility, but that doesn't mean it's the best time for you. So you have to, I tell people here, I want you to use some common sense. So if your target audience is a mom, are they surfing Facebook at 9 o'clock in the morning when they're trying to get their kids off to school? No, they're not, so when are they actually online? They're not online at lunchtime either. Now, one advantage with this, Chris, and I think you'll agree with this, is now posts get more visibility based on how many likes and shares and comments it gets bumped up to the news feed on a regular basis. And so now, while you might be posting at a different time, you can still reach your audience when they're online later, because the more interaction you get on a post, the more visibility it gets.
That's right.
And then also, of course, we'll talk about a little bit more, but also boosting posts, which is so important today. I've always been one of those people that I'm like, organic reach. And that's a lot of these strategies that I've actually used and implement here are focused on getting engagement with organic reach. But even now, that reach is so little now. I mean, you only reach about, some stats say 2% of your audience with organic posts. So you have to hit that boost button. You have to have a budget to invest in your social media.
Yep.
That's just all there is to it. Doesn't necessarily have to be an extremely large budget, but you do have to have a dedicated budget. So let's talk about the how. So how are you going to get the word out about your business online? And I'm not talking about here the generic, oh, well, I'm going to post on social media. I'm talking about, are you going to use GIFs? Are you going to create videos? Are you going to share tips? How are you going to get the word out? You have to get a little more specific in this area. Are you going to create micro infographics that you're sharing on social media? You've got to get really specific here. It's not just, I'm going to post social media updates. That's not what you want to do. Okay. And then how are you going to keep your brand messaging consistent? Because this is really important. While you might not necessarily take the same update that you write for Facebook and post on your LinkedIn business page, you still want that messaging and the wording, and you want them to realize that it feels the same. It's connected to your brand, just like your logo and your cover photo. It needs to be consistent. How are you going to accomplish that? And then this is the biggest one, and this is one of the biggest struggles that people have, Chris. How are we going to write social media content easily, week after week after week? And the reason I say that is it's easy and it's fun when you start using social media. Oh, I'm going to write some social media posts. I'm going to crank some content out, right? It's easy to do it for a week. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
But it is not easy to do it for a month, the second month, the third month, the fourth month. That is where you need a schedule to really be consistent. And we're going to talk about that a little bit as I move through this. So this is really important. I recommend everybody set aside 1 hour a week to write their social media updates. Now, of course, ideally you're writing your content and you're planning out a month, 2 months, 3 months at a time, but you have to start somewhere. So start with setting aside 1 hour every week to write your social media updates, and make this the same time every week. That way other people are educated about the fact that you're not available at that given time frame. I know Chris always jokes with me because every Friday morning I'm writing a client newsletter and I am not available. And he's messaged me several times. Their content, I'm like, can't work, writing.
That's your window. That's your writing window.
That is my writing window. You should see how long it takes me to get inspired to do that. And so you want to write your social media post a week at a time. And I always tell everybody, type them in Word or Google Doc or something and save them. Okay. There's a couple of reasons for that. I want you to do that. And then I want you to look at them a couple days later before you actually post them on your social media accounts with a new set of eyes, because your brain will stick words in there. One of the words that always gets me is now versus no. I'll be trying to say, you know what I mean? And it'll say, you now what I mean. Happens to me all the time. Chris, you have any words like that get you?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. And so you want to look at them later. I always recommend that you read them out loud. And I know you're like, that's weird. I'm gonna be sitting at my desk reading them out loud. Sometimes when you hear them, if it's hard to read it out loud, then something's wrong with it and you need to do a rewrite. Schedule all your updates in advance. And I'm going to show you some tools that'll make that easier for you to do that. And then you're going to want to use themes to make your writing easier. And this is the thing that for me, even when I don't actually do social media maintenance for clients anymore. If y'all are looking for that, Reputation Sensei is your guys. But this is something that I always do. I use themes when I'm writing the content for Rocks Digital. I manage just a few very specific clients, and that's only because I've been doing their social media for decades and I can't get out of it. But use themes to make your writing easier. Let's look at some themes that are fun. Motivation, Monday. Now, there's a typo in there. I just noticed it. Is that an April Fool's joke, Chris? You were trying to fool me there. You put in Motivation Monday. You got me, didn't you? Okay. He was testing me to see if I was going to pay attention, if I was paying attention or not.
You were just talking about words that get you.
That's right. Words that get you. So Motivation Monday. And keep in mind, these themes, you don't have to share them with your audience. These are for you. So when you sit down to write, you're like, oh, it's Monday. I'm going to share something inspirational. Here's an example of a nonprofit that they always shared quotes, for example, on Monday. And also, by the way, that's a popular hashtag. So if you connect your content to popular hashtags, then you'll get more viewers and visibility for your page also. But share quotes, images, inspirational messages. Make sure that they reflect your brand though, because you don't want to share something that's against your brand guidelines. But this is just one example of Motivation Monday. Here's an example of Tip Tuesday. Just share short tips to provide value for the reader. As you can see here, this is from Reputation Sensei. I love, by the way, Chris, how y'all put these in images.
Be active on social media. See the second one, second top right.
Oh yeah, great tip, powerful tip. Be active on social media. But they created these tips like this, and these kind of images also translate well to other social platforms. Why I'm showing you Facebook here, these also translate to Instagram, and they have a little emblem here that's encouraging the user to swipe to keep seeing the next tip. Love that, Chris. Very good idea. So that's an example. So you want to share tips for the reader on Tip Tuesday. And like
by the way, good job, Katrina.
High five, Katrina.
Thank you.
So Tip Tuesday is an idea, to work from. And it might not be Tip Tuesday for you. These are just the ones that are easy for people to come up with ideas and inspiration.
For HVAC, it might be like how often to clean your filter, because that's always a big question mark, right?
Yeah. How often to clean your air filter? If it's a car dealership, how often to get your car changed? I was seeing one the other day, Chris, for one of y'all's social media clients. I saw it on Instagram, and it was related to how often they need to get their car aligned. I thought that was really clever and important. And I noticed that one got a lot of engagement. So it's also about sharing the content that your audience wants and they're hungry for, right? If you test something out and it doesn't work, then try something different. It doesn't mean you just do it one time and you stuck with it forever, whether it's working or not. And then Wild Wednesday. I always love this one. Make this fun. Share funny gifts, videos. Here's an example of one for a heating and air conditioning company. And look at the reach that this got, by the way, Of course, you can see this post was boosted because it's powerful. But this post got 118 shares. I wonder how hot it was that day when they posted this. Works out better if it's hot too, right?
That's right.
So think about what's happening at that time also, or what that season is like when you're creating this content. Here's another example of one for a car dealership. Talking about, I actually saw this one, Chris. Look at that reach on that, 31,000 people and 233 shares. That's so powerful. You could post this organically and you might get a little bit of engagement. Hitting that boost button just takes it even further. Yep. For those of you who don't realize, so this got 233 shares. So that page, that Facebook page, had the opportunity to connect with people that hadn't liked it before. Those people saw it and they most likely click like on that page.
Yep. And
now they're actually following that page too, which means eventually when they need a new car, they're going to head over to Steve Raymond Chevrolet.
By the way, that client has over 40,000 fans. And for a car dealer, that's a lot.
That is a lot. And is that probably from doing that boost and post strategy a lot, huh? Getting more people.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Trouble Thursday. Solve a problem, provide a resource. These can be videos, images, downloads. I know this might feel very similar to Tip Tuesday for you, and that's okay. Remember, these themes I'm recommending. You need to come up with your own themes that are tied to your business. You can use these if you want to get you started, but come up with your own too. You don't have to stick to mine. Here's an example of Chris solving a problem for people with an online reputation management issue. And notice he has a link. He's giving them a free download as part of that. So he's getting him lead gen and he's solving people's problems with this video. This is actually a video. And I believe it has 5 or 6 tips in here, Chris, if I remember correctly. 5 tips. And it actually is a video. So he's solving their problem and he's giving them a resource, which is getting him lead gen opportunity. So he's doing like a double bang there, right, Chris?
Yep.
And then here's Feature Friday. You can feature products. Here's an example of Rocks Digital. You can feature reviews from your customers. You can feature team members. These are powerful things. You can feature things happen in the office. I tell you, especially creating this kind of content right here, people like to congratulate people and see people that are actually part of the business. And so sharing things like this are really, really powerful. An example I like to give for a realtor, Chris, is this one realtor I was doing some coaching with, this was a long time ago. They still use it today because they found it to be quite effective, is they would have tours on the weekends, people coming into their communities, right? Their different communities. And so on Friday, they would always feature new communities so they could get people booking appointments to come in and check that community on the weekend. So you can feature all sorts of stuff, offers, events, whatever's happening. But feature because people want it. And honestly, in reality, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you feature a product always on Friday. It ties well to the name, Feature Friday. You can feature products on Tuesdays or Wednesdays or whatever day you want to do it on. But it just helps you in writing the content. When you sit down and you think, you know what, I've got to write my social media content for next week, and I've got to write Tuesday's update. And on Tuesdays, I always feature a new product, or I tell a tip about a product or how this product helps somebody. So you know what you're going to write on Tuesday. It just makes your job a lot easier. Do you agree with that, Chris?
I like it because it personalizes. This is the opportunity to personalize your brand and also to build, morale within your own company. When you feature employees, spotlight them, employee spotlights, celebrate an employee's birthday and throw a video. We do it here. And it's a great way to build morale for your team.
It really is. It's a double bang, actually, right? It's a win-win because you're building morale with the team members and you're building morale with your potential customers or your current customers. The more people think about you online, the more likely they're going to buy from you or recommend you when that comes time. So let's talk about branded content here. This is really powerful. And I see we got a Canva here. So this is were these built out in Canva, Chris?
And this is just an example of, some clients that we help brand. They're and you can design this yourself. The Canva is super easy. But make sure that you're putting posts up with your branded content in it. That's the point.
Yeah, have your logo, team shirts, especially if you're in the home services business, because it helps them to recognize you when you're out and you're about. Just like you have your truck, right, branded. You want to brand your social media too.
Yep.
This is really powerful, and you can see here the reach on these posts and why some might have more visibility than the others. That's because of how much the client was willing to invest in that particular boost. So some might have less, some might have more. That's just what it comes down to. So I promised I'd give you a couple of tools. And so I'm going to give you a couple of tools here. Here is Hootsuite. They have an actual scheduler that you can built in. You can use Hootsuite with their free version for up to 2 social profiles. So you can do like your Twitter and your Facebook, your Twitter and your LinkedIn. I want to add here that I actually recommend, if you're going to use Hootsuite's free version, that you use it for your Twitter and your LinkedIn. And the reason for that is you want to use Facebook's native scheduler when you're posting on Facebook. It is a known fact that Facebook actually deters your visibility and your reach if you're using a third-party tool to post to their platform. They want you to be on their website using their tools. Here's a screenshot of how to use Facebook's native scheduler. You can write your message over here on the left, and you actually can use it for Instagram also. This was just doing the Facebook, but you can actually checkbox Instagram and see the different views based on Instagram also. I always personally just go to Instagram myself because I like to do it and it gives me time to browse. But you can use Facebook Scheduler to post to both platforms and save your time and your effort.
And by the way, if you want step-by-step instructions on this, just go to YouTube. There's a million videos on how this works.
Absolutely. There absolutely is. Really quickly here, let's just ask them a quick question, Chris. Comment in the chat if you are currently using a scheduling tool to post on your social media. Just give us a quick question here. We'll just give a few people, we got Hootsuite coming up. Good. I like to see that. Love that, Kim. Anybody else going to tell me what they're using here? Hootsuite is powerful. They have recently increased their rates. I actually have their, I saw Mav Social. Okay, I'm not familiar with that one. We got another Hootsuite. Oh, yep, Promo Republic. That's good. I love to see the people on here commenting on what they're using. That's great. Hootsuite and Buffer, so use a couple of different tools. I totally get that. I personally like to use a combination of Deliverr, Hootsuite. I use them for different things. And I also like another one called Socialize It. So it's really powerful. I'm glad to see what you're doing. Let's move on here. So another thing, and this is a really, I want to make sure I didn't skip a slide. This is a really powerful tip that I want to share with you here is this is about creating evergreen content. I see some of the names in here that I recognize. Some of y'all might have heard me already talk about this before. I challenge people to write 100 character updates. Okay. Now, Twitter does let you tweet more now. It can be more than 100 characters. It could be 120. It doesn't have to be golden 100 characters. But I challenge people to write 100 character updates. And this content is evergreen. And what that means is you can use it over and over and on the different platforms. You don't want it to be content that's date intensive. So for example, writing a bunch of updates about April Fools, that is not evergreen content. While it would be funny, it is not evergreen, right? So you want content that is generic and you can use over and over time. Now, I'm not saying here that you never have to update it, but it should be able to stand the test of time. Some of those tips like Chris talking about reputation management, that video, those 5 tips, those are evergreen. That's an evergreen video. Unless you have any specific stats in it, then it might not be as evergreen. But that is considered evergreen content. So I challenge people to write 100 character updates. And you know what? 100 is intimidating. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Yep, absolutely.
So don't write 100, write 5, then write 5 more, then write 5 more. And eventually you'll get to 100. You don't have to sit down and do them all at one time. Okay. Because that can mean as you're writing your social media content every week, put into your plan that you're going to write 5 evergreen updates that you can build out this big document of evergreen content. Use a URL shortener, Bitly. That's a free version. There's lots of different ones that you can use, but use a URL shortener so you can track your clicks on these. Also, those long URLs, you don't need to take up space with that. And then upload your evergreen content using, say, Hootsuite via Excel, and you can schedule them out on your social media profiles over time. Like I mentioned earlier, the free version supports 2 social media profiles. I couldn't believe when I looked at this price the other day. Hootsuite is now $49 a month for professional version. I was like, wow. So that might be out of y'all's budget, guys. And I totally understand that. And I have some less expensive tools that y'all can use, or even some free tools. I personally have a pro Hootsuite account, but I'm grandfathered in. I've had it since 2009, and luckily they haven't increased my price. So I still get to stick to that. I won't tell you how much it is. Okay, maybe I will. I pay like $6.99 a month, Chris, for my Hootsuite.
Yeah, I wish the bill was that much. We have 115 accounts, so
there's an advantage to when you get a tool to stay with it and not cancel it. I can attest to that. SocialUmp is another tool that you can use to schedule out your bulk upload your updates and schedule them out in advance, your evergreen content. You can get the free Twitter basic features. They have $15 monthly to use one posting profile, and then $25 for the pro version is their monthly rate. And you can actually use that, and you can schedule this evergreen content to post across multiple platforms. You can post it to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. It's powerful. Again, though, remember what I said about Facebook? I prefer for you to use their scheduler to schedule out their content, because you can't bulk upload there, though. You're going to have to consider, is it worth using a bulk upload type feature to get a little less reach? And then here's a newer tool. This is Socialize It. They have a free version. It supports up to 3 social media profiles. Their pro version is $7 a month. Now, I do want to tell people here, and I always tell people, I actually use Socialize It for RSS feeding content, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But I use it for clients that I'm not really doing their social media, but I want their blogs because it helps build links back to their site. to post on their social medias, I'll use Socialize It for that, and I'll just set them up their own account, and I just use the free version, and I just set up the RSS feeds. So it's really good for that, but it's not super user friendly. So if you're not super familiar with Hootsuite and some of the other automated tools, it might take you a little longer to grasp it. I always like to tell people that. So don't expect to log into Socialize It and create an account and be like, you're a social media genius. It's not super intuitive. I like it, but it's not super intuitive. Here's some evergreen content examples and what they look like when posted on different platforms. This is Facebook. This is Facebook and what it looks like. This is Reputation Sensei. This is one of their evergreen pieces of content that they post, and they're actually publishing this via Hootsuite. Shame on you, Chris.
And just to point out, like evergreen, because just to make sure people understand that term, that means we can repurpose this and use it time and time again.
Exactly. They don't have to write a new update every time. This
Right.
is evergreen.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you post it every week, though. That just means you can use it now and you pull it out a month from now and use it again.
Right.
That's what we mean with evergreen. Here's an example of evergreen content on LinkedIn. This is an infographic this is one of my clients that I've worked with for years and years and years. And actually, when I did these, I actually worked for them as their director of brand marketing, and I still hold that capacity, but in a different role. And every time we came up with this new infographic, we would write a whole bunch of updates and graphics on it, and we would schedule them across our social media. So here's an example of evergreen content. We would write, every time we came up with a new graphic, I would have 10 social media pieces of content written for each graphic. And then we would just share it over and over and over on the social media platform. So here's an example of that. Here is an example of what it looked like posted on Twitter. You can see it's really visual and it gets people wanting to go to this graphic. This was a move to create site traffic. And so that's powerful. I do want to show you here, this is what it looks like for Hootsuite's bulk uploader. I do want to tell you here, it limits you to 350 updates across all social profiles. So if you write your 100 evergreen pieces of content and you're wanting to post to 5, 6, 7 social profiles, you wouldn't be able to upload them all at once. You can, it only allows you to have 350. Hootsuite does not allow any kind of duplicates. So you could only schedule that 100 time. And then when you're ready to use again, you'd have to go in and change your publishing dates and times and upload them again. You can use images on the Hootsuite bulk uploader too, which is a great advantage for increasing that visibility. Hey, Chris, are y'all going to write your 100 updates now?
We already did.
You did?
We write them every day.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love to hear that. This is what Social Ump looks like. They can do Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest. They also support images and RSS feeds. And I'll explain a little bit about RSS feeds in a little moment, but I just show you all the screenshot here so you can kind of get a glimpse of their pricing and some of their features. You're going to send the replay to this later to the attendees, Chris.
Yep.
So they can look at this a little closer and get a feel for those different features. Deliver It, that's one of the tools I mentioned earlier that I really, really like. And you can do Twitter, Facebook, Google My Business. I haven't tested with Google My Business, but I love that they added, and LinkedIn. And you can see their pricing here for their free version and their pro version. And then Socialize It, they have a built-in image designer, which I really, really love. And they support RSS feeds also, which is really powerful. And then I want to give you some examples. So every WordPress website has an RSS feed on it. And so you can go grab that link and you can drop that into your Hootsuite, your Socialize It, the different platforms that you're using, and you can get that to automatically, anytime a new blog is published, automatically publish across your social medias. And I just love that. Here's an example of what that looks like on Twitter. This is through Socialize It. See, it has an image, a link, it has the blog post title. Here's an example of what that looks like on Facebook, RSS feeding it. And so that's really powerful too. I was thinking I had a LinkedIn example, but I guess I skipped that one. Repurposing content. Okay, this is where I want you to think. Do you have articles you can turn into tips and images? Do you have how-tos and FAQs on your website that you can share on your social medias? Do you have any product videos that you can make shorter to share on your different platforms? These are really powerful ways. And I know there's a lot of content out there that you can do this with. One thing I like to do here is show you an example of repurposing content to really give you the power behind it here. Here's an infographic that Advice Local had created. I actually showed you some snippets of that earlier. One big infographic they put on their blog. But look what they did with this. We sliced and diced each section of this infographic. It has powerful information, tips, and stats. And we share these across all of the social platforms along with a link so that people could get the full graphic. This is a great way to drive traffic, to engage an audience, and to get people to share what you're actually posting on social media. This is just super powerful. By the way, we turned this one infographic into 13 images and 5 articles. So I want you to think about how you can repurpose your content. It's powerful. Chris, you have an infographic actually that you're working on repurposing for something very similar to this.
And if you need an infographic, Lisa is the one to talk to because she designed ours and we use it exactly like this. We've sliced and diced it. We used it throughout our social media to drive traffic back for people to download the full infographic, which is designed to really explain our process.
That is right. And that is so powerful. And here's a link. This isn't actually an old article about stats, but it's still pretty powerful. I always like to share the source when I use something like this. Here's an example of a repurposed PowerPoint. I love this one, Chris. How many PowerPoints you have out there you've created?
A lot.
A lot, right? Here's an example of a PowerPoint that was about mobile's the new local. We turned that into it had a quiz in it about no mobile phobia. And so we turned that quiz into a content piece on the site. We actually took it and turned it into a different article also. These are different pieces of content here. We actually took those 18 tips that she had in that deck and turned it into a guide to get downloads. Is that not awesome?
Wow.
And then later, we also turned it into an infographic. Talk about repurposing, right? Yep. And then, by the way, we didn't do it, but think about how many ways we could slice and dice that infographic too. Mm-hmm. We turned this PowerPoint into 2 blogs, a guide, and an infographic. Wow. So just to give you an example of what can be done. And then there's the source for that. By the way, these tips are still real powerful today, even though this is an older content piece. The next thing, and we're wrapping up here really quickly, is you've got to do maintenance. Okay, so I want you to schedule a time every day to engage with your social media. 3 times a day. I recommend, in the morning, first thing, see what happened overnight, after lunch, and then before you close out for the day.
But you're not suggesting they post 3 times a day. You're saying engage. So
engage.
You unpack down a little bit, like interact.
Yes. Respond to people. Respond to people that have commented.
Like people's comments, because it never fails to amaze me when we go to a company's page and they're not responding to people that are actually interacting with their page. And really, it's like you're kind of ignoring those people. It'd almost be like customers coming into your store and you're not speaking to them.
Exactly. You have to respond to people. And the fact is when you do respond to people, I have found if you encourage them by asking a question with whatever their comment is, not just a thank you, ask them a question that supports that and they'll respond back to you again. And then you're driving more engagement, and the more engagement you get on your post, what happens, Chris?
The more engagement you get, the more it opens up the algorithms.
That is absolutely right. The more you're feeding the algorithms. If, for example, you're building out Twitter as your profile and you're really getting into Twitter for your engagement, that's when you would go on and retweet people and thank people that retweeted you, and the people that did retweet you, ask them a question. You want to keep that conversation going. Also, you can share other people's social media updates during this time. You can retweet them. Again, it's all about engagement. You want to get that conversation going. You want your audience, whoever it is, and no matter what platform you're on, to know that you actually care about them. Yep. And Chris Messenger here, respond, 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 respond. You cannot ignore people and their comments. If you do, they won't comment next time. That's all there is to it. They didn't care about what I said. I'm done with them.
Right.
Just like responding to reviews, right, Chris?
And that's what I was about to say. Please respond to your reviews on Facebook and thank people that write you positive reviews, and respond to people that also write you negative reviews. Thank them and try to take that conversation offline.
Don't ignore them, because they'll come back and they'll comment again and again and again and again. And I've even had one time, I had a client who wasn't responding to the reviews, and that person that had a bad experience went in and, get this, commented on everybody else's positive reviews about what a bad experience they had.
Yep.
Talk about a brand killer, right?
Yep.
And so we're going to do a quick wrap up, and then we're going to open it up to some questions and answers for y'all. And that is, set a schedule so you don't get caught up on social media. Know what your goals are each time you get on social media. It's to reply to people. It's not to get stuck in a loop of surfing your own Facebook feed. It's about Facebook for your business, for your clients, for your customers. Use your tools to make it easier, because if you're not using tools, you're wasting a lot of time. You agree with that, Chris?
Yep, absolutely.
Set your email notifications to limit your interruption. So that way, when you are actually trying to do your work versus being on your social media, you're not constantly getting interrupted by email notifications. Okay. And then avoid being negative and posting stuff that is conflictual. You don't want to create conflict on your social media. That is just not helpful. It actually damages your brand.
Yep.
I'm going to give an example here. I have my chiropractor office. She has a big sign right when I walk in the door that says, Biden, not my president, right? Now, I get that might be your political brief, and that's fine if you want to do that. And that's fine if she wants to have that up in her business. That's completely her business to do that. However, she could be turning a lot of customers away because of putting stuff like that. You know, I tell people, if you're a chef, post pictures of your food.
Stay away from politics and religion.
Politics and religion. That's right. If you're a preacher, you better be posting about religious stuff. But if you're not, it's just best to avoid it, you know, as much as possible, because you need your customers and you don't want to turn them away because of something you posted.
Talk about politics and places not to. And, you know, I agree wholeheartedly. Your business is not the place to do that.
Yeah, it is absolutely not. And you don't want to be negative either. You don't want to do bashing of other people, because that just attracts trolls, and you don't want to attract trolls to your business. You don't want negativity on your social media accounts. You just don't do it. So that is it. One thing I like to add here, Chris, is most of these tips, believe it or not, they're excerpted from my book, 25 Tips for Twitter Success. And you can see here, I actually wrote the first one, 20 Tips for Twitter Success. It was so successful, I had to write another one and add some more tips to it. So most of these ideas were excerpted from my book, 25 Tips to Twitter Success. I'm not here to try to peddle books to y'all, because honestly, I probably only have about 5 or 10 copies left of this book, and I haven't gotten any more printed. I did a self-publishing route, but I just like to give credit to the book here that most of these came from that. And with that, you want to cover this for us, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the one thing that we like to make clear is you can execute a social media strategy or even a reputation marketing strategy. We like to give away our strategies on these webinars, but the reality is, if you don't have a person typically dedicated to it in your organization, if they're not committing the time and resources and have the tools and the expertise to actually execute, then it can be challenging to execute this on your own. And that's why we're here. Companies hire us every day because it allows them to do what they do best. That's run their company, whichever vertical they're in, and it allows us to do what we do best, and that's the marketing. You know, here at Reputation Sensei, we really focus on reputation, social media, and local SEO. And then Lisa is more focused on the website development, Google paid search, and SEO, search engine optimization. So if you need any help in those areas, we're here for you.
That's absolutely right. And we're always happy to help y'all go into these directions. One thing that we mentioned at the beginning here, we don't have it yet. Do we want to give them the bonus yet, Chris?
Well, let's do Q&A, or we can give away the bonuses. We're doing Q&A because we're running short on time.
One thing that I mentioned, and I actually sent you all those links, Chris, so you could post those. One thing I didn't mention here is we also have a social media planning worksheet, which you can download, and you can work through and answer these different questions that I have went over with you, how to create your social media plan. You can go through, print out that worksheet and fill it all. And then you can look back at that to get you some guidance in that area. Do you want me to get the links for you, sir?
Yeah, and then if there's any questions, Katrina, can you just field those to us, or?
Sure. So to start, how long should you wait before reposting evergreen content?
I would say, well, I tell people if they write 100 updates, technically you could wait 3 months before repeating one if you wrote 100 of them.
That's a lot of updates.
That's sharing one every 5 hours, by the way, on Twitter.
I was going to say once every 3 months too. I mean, every 90 days, people are, if it's evergreen and people are, the reality is we wish they were paying more closer attention to it, but the reality is no one's going to call you out on seeing a piece of content that they've seen before.
They're not. They're just not gonna.
And if they are, they're probably paying attention really closely to your brand, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Was there any other? What's the next question, Katrina?
So next we have, what's a good budget for ads on social?
Well, that's a open-ended question because ads are one thing to generate ads. When we take on a social client, we ask for really a budget for 3 areas. First and foremost, to generate likes for the page. You want a likes campaign going, and there's some new ways to generate likes for pages that are really cost effective right now through promoted posts. The second is boosting posts on your page to get more visibility. And then the third is to generate, if your business truly needs leads, then generating leads. We produced 58 leads the other day for a med spa, like I think $3.80 a lead. So that's form leads. So it just really depends on your needs and which vertical you're in. But we ask for, if someone's just going to do boost and likes, we ask for $200 or $300 to apply toward that. And if they're going to do ads, again, it depends on the vertical, but that could be anywhere from $500 to $1,000, even $1,500.
Okay. And lastly, is there a good way to figure out what's the best time to post for your following?
There's actually analytics on the fan page that actually tell you when your fans are online. So you can go into the back end of your analytics and see when your fans specifically are online the most. And that's when we recommend posting.
We actually had another question come in. Which social media management tools offer the best reports to measure metrics?
I would say Hootsuite, bar none. We've explored most of them, and Hootsuite's at the top. And we're on a very expensive version of Hootsuite, but the reporting is phenomenal. We like to really quantify how many link clicks that we're producing off of our social initiatives. And that really helps because anyone can post content to your page, but really getting engagement and getting people to respond and click through to, say, your website is the key.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Okay, I think that's all the questions.
There's the links, and we'll also email these out to all the people that attended the webinar. So let's give away that one other, let's see, what's that second? Yeah, right there, the online assessment. Again, this is a PDF download, and you can fill this out in less than 10 minutes, but it really helps you identify exactly where you're at as a company in terms of online presence, from your social media to your reputation to local SEO, even your website.
And the fact is if you don't actually want to do the DIY assessment, Chris, you'll see that we dropped in the link here for Chris's online presence report. You want to share a little bit with him about that?
Yeah, our online presence report is going to give you a grade in your local reputation, your local SEO, website, and social media. It's even going to show you your most recent reviews. So it's a pretty comprehensive report. You go to that link, or you can go to our website and find it under resources. But that really is beneficial in letting you know how consumers are seeing your business online. It's very insightful.
Absolutely. It's really powerful. And honestly, they could even do both. You could do your own online assessment, see how you did, and then run the report and see how if you did a good job comparing yourself. I'm really looking forward. And one last thing we wanted to share here was our next webinar is coming up on April 21st. And that's going to be how to drive revenue with your website. And we have the link here so that y'all can go ahead and register today if y'all would like to, just to make sure you're on the list. I'm looking forward to that webinar. What about you, Chris?
Well, one thing about your website is your website's your calling card. And, if it isn't, in my opinion, less than 2 years old, we're a 5-year-old company, and we're on our 3rd edition. And I'm so pleased with our current website because it's completely optimized for SEO, and it has a form fill lead capture on almost every single page, We've got trust triggers, communicating trust to website visitors to help convert more people. So thank you, Lisa, for actually redesigning and revamping that. It was a big project, but we're extremely pleased with our website. So if you want to see an idea of what Lisa can do, go to reputationsensei.com.
Absolutely.
I do have one more question that came in, guys. The question is, can you give a few examples of 100-word evergreen messages?
So I actually saw that. So actually those screenshots that we did throughout the presentation, those were actually screenshots of evergreen content. So for example here, let me see if I can go back quickly. I think we're just too far back in the deck for it. But for example, where are they at? I went too far. It's actually in the deck, and those were examples of evergreen content. Let me find them here. Besides Chris's example, which isn't 100 characters because you can get longer on Facebook, but these were, let me get to it here. Sorry to do this to y'all. I went too far. Right here, these are actually 100 character evergreen updates.
But you can Google also, good ideas for evergreen content, and Google's going to give you a lot of ideas list because you really need to come up with a calendar, and then come up with a schedule and talk specifically what you think would be beneficial for your audience. You want to really speak to your audience on this with the evergreen content.
Yeah, you absolutely do. You don't want to just go to the do what everybody else is doing, because it won't have the same power.
Right.
And that's just all there is to it. Well, thanks everybody for coming in today. Did you have something else to add, sir?
I was just going to say, identify the pain point that your client's having, and that pain that you solve with your product or service, and tell that story. There's a great book that I've just read by Brandon Kane called Hook Point, and it is absolutely one of the best marketing books I've ever read.
I love that, because you got to hook them.
Yep, you got to hook them and bring them in. So thanks everyone for attending, and we will send out a replay afterwards. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.